It is showtime. Hello, everybody. This is Unfound Live for November 17th of 2025. Hope everybody has had a beautiful week since we all last got together. This time goes by so fast. I keep saying that. I can't believe it's been over 2 weeks since I went on that trip with my brothers. Cannot believe that it's been over 2 weeks since I got pulled over by the cops. I don't know where the time goes. I just don't know. I have a spectacular show lined up for you tonight. And that even includes the items that are not included in the title for this live show tonight, just to go through those. Going to do my best analysis of the disappearance of Amy Bechtel, Bechtel. That's a disappearance from Wyoming, of all places. And that's the one that caught my eye. And took some time to read about it yesterday and today. Looked at some news articles and tried to get a handle of it as best I could. Still unsolved all these years later. I also want to talk about this professor who killed his wife. Very sad and tragic story, but I think there's something that we can all learn from this, even though it's quite the bizarre story. And then I have an update on a disappearance that Unfound featured not that long ago, right here in Florida, up there in the panhandle of Ian Rogers. There is an update on his disappearance. He has not been found, but still there is an update. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for what will be discussed tonight. Of course, if I get the time. I think any of you who've been with a live show for a little while now, you know when it gets into these analyses of these disappearances that I've picked out over the last few months, that usually takes me quite a bit of time, but I enjoy doing it. I think that you enjoy listening to it and making some comments. Maybe some of these disappearances are ones you know already. Maybe you're hearing about some of them for the first time, and maybe it's helpful to all of you to see how I go through the progression of doing the analysis that I do. And I keep saying that my prediction rate, accuracy rate on disappearances at this point is over 90%. So when you're listening to me, and I know you all love Unfound and everything else, but I would hope that when you're listening to me, and I hope you realize that it's coming from somebody who, has shown the ability to make predictions on these things. And I put my predictions out there, and I don't know how many people do that. Certainly a lot of people out there love to theorize, but I don't know if how many are willing to stake their reputations on their predictions. I'm certainly ready to stake my reputation on my predictions. So that's who you're listening to when you hear me talk about all these disappearances. These ones, once again, that have not yet been featured on the podcast. Certainly, I'd love to cover Amy's and all these others that have been discussed over the months. Maybe some of that will happen. You just can never tell. But for now, just going by the public information, and in none of these have I spoken to anybody in their families. Just looking at what to me is missing from the puzzle. Maybe some unique ways to take a look at the circumstances and the people involved. That's what I'm doing. But I have a bunch of other stuff that I would like to get to. I don't know if I need to do it, but I would like to get to before we sign off at 11 p.m. Eastern. As you are watching or listening, certainly if you're driving in a car, do not be looking at the screen. Just listen and chill out and get to your destination safely. Do not be looking at the screen. But one way or the other, I hope you can give this show a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. If you've not, maybe you're somebody new, never heard of Unfound before, and you're finding the YouTube channel for the first time. That's interesting. Subscribe to the channel. There are a variety of ways that you can support what we do here at Unfound. Patreon, PayPal. If you're watching on YouTube tonight, you can hit the join button. And as I think a couple people maybe have done, I think you see Gina. Thank you so much, Gina Schaefer. There, thank you. And then here is Lisa celebrating her 3-year membership anniversary. So they get some things that other people do not. You can be included if you hit the join button below where the screen is. And I should know that on some devices, on some apps, the join button might not be available. You might have to go to a real computer to do that. And also one more point, another way to support Unfound is over there under the chat. You will see the super chat button if you'd like to contribute while the show is going on. So what has gone on since we all got together, at least in my life? This trivia this past week was not good. Played twice. Last Wednesday, this is the place that I've been going to for a while, but now I'm playing with new people. We really did not do spectacularly in the regular part of the game. And then when it came to the final question, well, we made a big mistake there and took a 0 for the night. And it's one of those issues where, you can rule out, it's like multiple choice and you can rule out 2 of the answers. And then it seems like the team is split on it's one or the other. And I thought I had a pretty good feeling on what the answer was. And it was a movie question. I'm usually very strong on movies. And they decided to go with the other answer. And it was incorrect. What I thought was correct. So we took a big old 0 on that night. And it's been a long, long time since I've been over there and took a 0. So we have fallen down the season standings a bit. And given that I'm going to be going to Pennsylvania later this week, I'm not going to be around for a couple weeks. They will have to do without me. We'll see how they do. I hope they hope they do spectacularly. But they are out, or we are out of the top 5 to get into the playoffs right now. And now at this point, it might be a little difficult. We're going to have to really, really play well, not take any zeros, and get some final questions right. And like I said, I'm not going to be there for at least some of it. We'll see how long I'm in Pennsylvania. It's hard to say right now. But so trivia on Wednesday night, no bueno. And then on Saturday, I got together with another group that I've been playing with and the part of the old team over at Finley's. And we were in first place going to the final question and blew it. And so we missed the final question, and a bunch of other teams got it right and passed us up. So, and in retrospect, we just blew it. That one was, once again, this is, it seems like a question that we should have gotten right. I mean, you figure we go through all of these questions, we're in first place, and then we get to the final question, we miss it, and a lot of other teams get it right. I mean, what are the odds? And so I would say both on Wednesday and on Saturday, those nights should not have gone the way they did. And I was a part of both. Maybe I am the weakest link. I don't know. Like I said, on Wednesday, they should have, it's easy to say now, but I thought I had a pretty good handle on what the answer was, and that's not the answer we went with. Saturday, we as a collective group missed it. Kind of got into a little bit too much groupthink. There wasn't enough, maybe in the, on Wednesday, there was probably too much dissension, too much fracturing. On Saturday, there was not enough fracturing. I think that if there had been one person in our group who said, I don't think that's the answer, we would have thought about it a little bit more instead of us all thinking the same thing and thinking we were right. Well, we all thought the same thing and we were wrong. So that can happen too. So going to play Wednesday again. And then on Thursday, I will be driving from Florida to Pennsylvania to see my dad. I talked to him today. He's really looking forward to seeing me. And I'm going to be there for at least a couple weeks. And if you're wondering, you're going up so soon. Well, I gave him the choice. And, once again, it's always a little bit open-ended when I go up there as to how long I'm going to be staying. Depends on, how my dad's doing. He's not a youngster anymore. He's going to be 89 on December 1st. And so we'll see what we get into up there. It'll be at least a couple weeks, but I did give him a choice. I can come up for at least his Thanksgiving and his birthday, or I can come up for Christmas and New Year's. And anytime I ever give him some choice like that, he always picks me go see him sooner. So that was how it worked out this time. So I'll be driving up there Thursday, as I usually do. Very common. I'll get up on Thursday morning, jump in the car, and unless I have an issue, drive the whole way in one day. Takes about 16 hours. So I leave here at 8. I get there at midnight. Just driving all day, of course, gets dark early. And, the only real issue about driving up there that way is no matter if I'm going north or if I'm coming back from Pennsylvania going south, I always hit Charlotte. Charlotte it's let me think about this. It's if I'm going that direction, it's a little more than halfway. If I'm coming back, it's less than halfway. Either way, I tend to hit Charlotte, during a busy time. Luckily, they have the HOV lanes, or those lanes where you don't have to take the exits. You can go into the middle. And of course, I'm not taking any exits, so I can get into those lanes that just pass everything. And that's nice, but they will ding you. They will charge you. And during those times of the day, it is not cheap. I'm here to tell you. I've gotten the bills a couple times, and it's always an eye opener. Whereas if I were going through there at 3 a.m, it wouldn't be anything, but that's just the way it works out. What are you going to do? So, but hopefully while I'm in Pennsylvania, maybe my dad and I will go play a little trivia. We'll see what the Denzel boys, we can do. We did play trivia when I was up there this summer. If you'll remember, I was up there in late June into early July, and we got our butts kicked. There. It was not good. So, but the thing is, on the other hand, when Dad and I have played together at other places, other times, we've actually done pretty well. In fact, we won once when he was down here in Florida, maybe four years ago or something like that. So we'll just have to see. So, so that's really what's going on. Like I said, trivia, anything else? I've been good. Been doing my singing every day. I think I'm progressing slowly but surely. Finally got out and through the discs a little bit. Continue to have, even today, I was doing a lot of coughing. It still seems like there's mucus down in my lungs from whatever I had like a week and a half ago. Still some of that going on. I feel great, though. Been sleeping great. Getting a lot of work done. But still, once in a while, you'll just be sitting here. All of a sudden, I'll start coughing and some, stuff will come up. And there's not blood on anything. It's very clear. It's just, I don't know. Is it allergies or is it something? I don't know. But I feel great. Work is getting done. And speaking of work, did an interview yesterday that you will hear this Friday. I'll talk about that, of course, before we are done tonight. And then I'm doing an interview tomorrow for what will be next Friday. So that will be the day after Thanksgiving. And if you're wondering, what am I doing for my Thanksgiving plans? My dad and I have already been invited over to my sister's. And yes, all of you know Charles Flat Baby in the chat. He, of course, is my nephew. It will be his mother's place where I will be going, and she lives over in Ohio. So she had called me when she found out I was coming up and invited us over there. So that should be a good time. And they do some fine cooking over there. So that's nice too. Anything else that's been going on? Construction continues on this building. It is just during the day. I have to get out of here. Either I go down to like the lobby of this building where it's not quite as loud, or I go out somewhere like the Starbucks or whatever. Cannot get any work done in this place while that's going on. Can't do any recording, nothing. It's just rattle, 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 rattle. And like I said, I don't know how long it's going to go. It's going to be a while. What I do know is when it's done, this place is going to feel really, really, really quiet, because I think that I've mentioned, living up here on the 8th floor, you feel just so disconnected from everything. It is, when things are quiet here, they're like really, 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 really quiet. And so it's weird to have all this noise and everything. So when it all goes back to normal, it's just, you're probably even going to see more quiet than usual. But it's stuff that I think needed to be done on a building that is this old. Anything else? Got to see Brother Brian. He came over. Actually, he was part of the trivia team on Saturday. He was also one of us who really messed up on Saturday, but he was doing well. He's doing good. So that's about it. Let's see who is in here, and then I will get into everything that I want to discuss tonight. And as usual, if you have any questions about anything that's going on, maybe there's some questions we haven't haven't been requesting any, but never think that I won't answer any questions that you post here in the chat, even if it's kind of off topic. You know me. I love, if you have any music questions, movie questions, whatever else questions, as long as it's PG and it's not too personal, I will answer it. So if there's anything on your mind tonight at any time, please put it in there. May not answer it right at that second, but I promise I will answer it before I am done tonight. Let's see who's here. Tech, what's going on? I know you are somebody else, Tech, and I know you put it in there last week. Is that everything? Is that you, everything? I think it is. Hello, Gina. Thank you for becoming a new member. I really appreciate it. Gina there in the very nice green. Let's see if I can scroll like this. Okay. Charlie, good to see you. Lisa, good evening. Fishing, hey, love your show. Been up, fan serials. Thank you. Fishing, good to see you. Hello, Mary. How are you? Good to see you. Lisa celebrating 3 years membership on the YouTube channel. Look at her. All of you be more like Lisa. Hello, Michelle, Amy, DD. And there's D just with one D. There's DD, and then there's D. That's funny. And D, so no live on my end this week or next. I probably shouldn't say this on air, D. Certainly not, for Thanksgiving. But, I don't know what kind of audience or whatever. As you know, D, I'm usually up for anything. But I really, we could do something on Thursday evening. I think that by the time we would be doing it, I think I'd have fine cell phone service. I could do it on my phone or something. And if we wanted to, we could talk about that a little bit more. I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. I just wouldn't be able to. You'd hear me just like you, D. They'd only hear us. They wouldn't see me. But we could talk about that, D. That's no problem. Yeah, you're Charles agreeing. Derek, there's more of a risk driving up here near Christmas. The weather can be unpredictable. Derek, you're right. I've driven up there many times around Christmas. In fact, I did that last year. Last year, yes. The year before that, I flew in because I was going directly from, I was up there for 2023 is when I was in Greeley, Colorado. I remember doing that TV show. and they very graciously flew me from Denver to Pittsburgh, so I didn't have to drive there. And then I flew back here to Florida. So, but I'm used to driving up there, Derek. I think I still have my snow driving skills, pretty sure. And my car is front wheel drive, so, and it has pretty good tires on it. So, thank you for the concern. I really appreciate it. Exotic, any plans for another trip to the Keys? Exotic asks, anytime Brother Brian wants to pack up the RV and go back down there, I'm all for it. You know, I don't know if Brother Michael will join us, but anytime. In fact, he and I were talking about that when I saw him on Saturday at trivia. We were talking about that, and can we do it again? And maybe a little better planning this time. We kind of did it by the seat of our pants. This time, I think everybody, heard the stories and knew that. So, absolutely. Looks like a great town to kind of walk around, and little restaurants and shops and everything else. And it was a little bit of a pity because we were right there at Halloween time and there was Halloween decorations, everything, but couldn't find any place to put the RV that was near that area. And then, of course, as you know, we got kicked off a military base. So there's all that, but would love to go back down there and with the RV and maybe find some place to park it and maybe Uber to downtown or something. Absolutely. I'm ready to go anytime. In fact, it wouldn't even have to be the Keys. Brian says, hey, want to jump in the RV again? I would say yes before he would finish that sentence. He'd be like, Ed, do you want to go? I mean, yes. That's yes. So the answer is yes. So D, like I said, we can talk about that a little bit more. I'm not ready to rule out doing something on Thursday. It's your show. You tell me what you want to do. All right, let's get to what I want to cover tonight. I want to go right to, usually I do the disappearance analysis first, but actually because we have an Unfound update, I think that I should do that first. And that would be for Ian Rogers. You might remember this is a disappearance that just got featured, I don't know, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, where I had the husband and wife host of Tragedy, true crime podcast. They came on to talk about Ian's disappearance. He was the guy who disappeared in his work truck. He had been given this work truck as a sign, giving him more responsibility. And then right after he gets this truck, he disappears with the truck. And you might also remember that a license plate camera caught the truck near this coincidentally, a place called Tom Brown Park, where there's a disc golf course. Maybe that's all ringing a bell now. And the truck has been found just a couple days ago. And this is nearby, I guess, where there was a phone ping. But I haven't seen any pictures of the truck or anything. However, I have had a back and forth with the guests from that episode. And the feeling that I get is that the reason it's taken this long to find the truck, remember, this is a disappearance that's over a year old. Remember, that's one of the qualifications to get onto the podcast, is that it was it's like somebody drove it into the woods. So it wasn't on like some dirt gravel logging road or anything. It wasn't, I don't think, on a road, period. It seems whoever put it there, and I am very, very, very inclined to believe that Ian put it there, somebody took it off-roading, I guess you might say, through the woods. And how it was found that way, I don't know if it was done by search or by luck. I'm guessing some people know. I didn't put it in my notes. And when I was talking to the host, technically the woman who was the guest, she really say, maybe she doesn't know either. I don't know. But she, in fact, when she got back to me, she goes, it was deep in the woods, and deep was all in capital letters. And if you just do a Google search for any information on the update, it will give you an approximation of where it was. But please understand what it says, that doesn't mean it was on a road. It would be like if you're just walking through the woods and there's a truck sitting there. I think that's kind of the way this was. So, of course, as you would expect, they're going to continue. They're going to keep looking around that area. What the popular thinking is about the among the people who are working on Ian's disappearance, I don't know. If they're listening to this, I would be inclined to tell them that you should suspect that Ian put it there and walked off. Probably isn't that far away, especially if he's going. Certainly, he was trying to hide the truck and make sure that it wasn't found. And it seemed like he did that successfully for a year. But now that it has been found, could he still be alive out there somewhere? I guess. And maybe I should, maybe that brings to mind something that also I didn't put in my notes, but now I'm going to talk about it after I'm done here with this topic. So I would incline to believe that Ian's probably somewhere around that area. If he were really thinking about ditching the truck and starting, his life over or being homeless or anything, putting it where he did certainly made things difficult to start, to try to trudge out of there and everything else. Now, did he put that truck in the area? If he did put the truck in there, is he familiar with that area? I have no idea. I don't think that anything like that came up in the interview. There's nothing that I've heard. Could he have randomly picked that? Yeah, sure. Just riding around and maybe kind of just generally knows that area is kind of wild. And you have to remember, up in the Panhandle, they do have forests. The Panhandle is much more like Alabama and Georgia than it is the way it is down here. It's much different up there. On the other hand, maybe he didn't put it there. Maybe it's someone else. I would be somebody, what are we thinking? Somebody abducted him and killed him and then went and ditched the truck in the woods somewhere. It seems unlikely. So that's why I'm leaning toward Ian putting it there. And I think the odds of him being alive, certainly they're higher than some of the other disappearances that we've featured on Unfound. But I would not say that the odds are as high as maybe some of the other people that we think maybe are still alive or have proven to be alive, because we have had some of those. So if you want to find out more information on that, you can just Google it. Just Google Ian Rogers truck found, and you will find some articles, including I think most of the articles do at least give the general area. And it was, from where he was last seen, it was maybe 30 minutes to the northeast of that. So it wasn't like crazy far away. It wasn't in another state or anything. It was still in Florida. It was only 30 minutes away, I think, about from where he was last seen. What that means, I'm not sure right now. So now that they found the truck, have to believe if Ian put it there, I'm going to say that he's probably somewhere in the area, not far away. Joni. Hello, Joni. How are you? I usually listen the next day on the podcast, but I already feel so much more involved listening live. Thanks, Ed. You are so great at what you do. I appreciate that. Joni, thank you for making time tonight. Thank you. Good to see you. I guess maybe this is your first live actually tuning in and, seeing me on the screen and everything else. So thanks for making time. Good to see you. So I wanted to get the Ian Rogers update. I wanted to do that first because, as you would guess, things like that always take precedent over any other type of items or news that I want to cover. So now let's move to Amy Bechtel. How well known is this disappearance? I think it's fairly well known. It's certainly not in the Mara Murray, Jennifer Kesse, Brian Schaefer category. Or maybe we might put Jody Huisentruit, just in there as well. Very well known. Certainly not at that tier. And I'm not even sure if it's in like the Brandon Lawson, Brandon Swanson tier. Probably in the next tier, I'm thinking. Your perception might be different. But I've known about her disappearance. I don't think that I've ever really, really gone over everything in her disappearance until I decided I was going to feature her tonight. I certainly have read some stories, had a general idea of her and the circumstances. But I will say now that I've gone over this, I'm glad that I picked this one. And once again, it's one of those ones that if you are a person like myself who does this for work and wants to get things right, and I think that my reputation is built and torn down whether I can predict the resolutions to disappearances correctly or not. That's the way I look at it. That's the pressure I put on myself. I don't know how many other people are putting that kind of pressure who are in the true crime community, and whether they want to be judged if they can make accurate predictions or not. But that's the way I look at it. So these ones that I try to, pick out for the live show are ones that, are challenging to me. And I realize, the odds of me getting them all right, should all of them be resolved, probably too much to hope for 100%. But certainly these types of disappearances are where we learn. Certainly there have been, every disappearance that we've featured on Unfound is important. But I would also say there are ones where we can learn a little. All of them, we can learn something from each one of them. But there are ones where we can learn a little, and then there are other disappearances where we can learn a lot. And I try to pick the ones where we can learn a lot, when I talk, when I pick them for this live show. So let's get, I'm going to read part, but not all, of the Charlie Project page regarding Amy Bechtel, and once again, Bechtel. She is on the Charlie Project. She is on NamUs, and I would venture a guess there have been maybe a podcast or two or YouTubers who have talked about her disappearance one time or another, especially considering this disappearance is almost 30 years old. Joni, it is. Love it. Okay, Joni, thank you. Great. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself tonight. Amy departed from the Lander, Wyoming apartment she shared with her husband of 1 year, Steve Bechtel, at approximately 9:30 a.m. on July 24th of 1997 to run errands for the house they had just purchased and were going to move into. She was seen at a local photo shop at approximately 2:30 p.m. Remember those before digital stuff? That 2:30 that afternoon. Employees at the store said she seemed to be in a hurry and looked at her watch several times. I will just tell you right now, I don't know what that's one of those things where usually I just dismiss that as kind of confirmation bias or hindsight 2020. They know she went missing, so they exaggerate maybe something that she was doing. So I just don't know how important that is. Moving on. Authorities believe Amy left the business and drove to Shoshone National Forest to check the course of an upcoming 10-kilometer run planned by her gym. And what I should add in here is that she was kind of responsible for it. She didn't run the gym. She didn't own the gym. But being that they were going to have this run, and she was a very successful runner in college. In fact, there have been points made that she was good enough. She might have been able to make the U.S. Olympic team at some distance or something, marathon, half marathon, I don't know, 10,000 meters, I don't know, maybe in 2000. She was very accomplished. But she was going up there. She was going to check out this run, and it should be known that she's going up here in July, but the run itself was not going to happen to September. So like a month and a half later. She had been seen running along the loop road. A footprint similar to her sneaker was found there, but it was destroyed before police could attempt to match it. Amy is an avid runner. She was never seen again. Steve returned to their residence at approximately 4:30 p.m. He had been socializing with friends and moving items into the new house all day. Steve was not initially concerned for Amy, but he summoned the authorities when his wife did not arrive home by 10:30 p.m. that night, July 27th, or June 27th. Let me check that again. Yeah, July 24th, I should say. So later that day, 10:30 that night, when she's not come home, he called police. Amy's white Toyota station wagon, was it a Toyota Tundra or something? It might have been an SUV, was discovered abandoned along that road where she was intending to go in the Wind River Mountains near Shoshone National Park shortly after her disappearance. Her keys, like maybe the next day, they found the vehicle. Unlike Ian Rogers' vehicle not found over a year later, her vehicle was found right away, like the next day, parked, right there on the side of the road, where I guess people thought she was going. It wasn't found in an unusual place. Her keys, this is key, the vehicle was unlocked. Her keys, her $120 sunglasses, nice money if you got it for sunglasses, and her to-do list for the day were inside the vehicle. But her green Eagle Creek wallet was missing. There were no signs of Amy at the scene, nor were there any indications of foul play. And as you can imagine, there were searches done all over the area. They knew that she was a runner, and I'm going to get more, deeper into this. Of course, that's what we do here. That's when I picked it out. But as you would imagine, being that she is a runner, going up and down the road, and maybe knowing that it was a 10-kilometer run, they went out this way, they went up, quite a distance, because that would be smart to do. This would be one of the disappearances where the, a mile radius, like what I've said, like with Jason Landry and others, where you might have to throw the mile, in any direction thing out, because it was known that she was going to go up there and check out this area and maybe go for a run for herself, which is, if you don't know what 10 kilometers is, that's like 6.6 miles, 6.5 miles or something like that. So, if it was out and back, it'd be like 3 miles out, 3 miles back, something like that. So you have to put the mile radius thing to the side. So, but of course, she's still missing. It's still unsolved almost 30 years later. Now, as you would imagine, could her husband have done this? What was going on between the two of them? They had not been married that long, but the police looked at Steve in 1997. And in fact, you can find comments from investigators years later who will say they still think that Steve was responsible for this. The problem is, well, I don't want to get into that, but the police got opinions from friends and family on the marriage. Some people said the marriage was great. Other people said that Steve was controlling. And, they found this journal where Steve had been writing things, and there was some violent words in there. And you should know Steve has his own Wikipedia page as well. He's a well-known rock climber or something like that. Steve Bechtel, you can find him on Wikipedia, Bechtel. But when he was asked about this, he said, well, it's really nothing. I was just writing down, I guess he's a musician. He was in a band, and he was just, kind of writing lyrics about songs, and I don't know, kind of music. Was it, of course, certain types of music, the language can be a little fierce. Of course, a lot of hip hop, or we might have called it rap back then. And even in the music that I listen to, heavy metal, some of the imagery with the lyrics, not very calm. It's not like it's Kenny G, but they question about that. And it seems when they started accusing him of lying, from what I've read, he says, you know what, guys, I'm not, and women maybe too, I'm not talking anymore. I'm not talking. If you're going to accuse me of lying, I'm not doing this anymore. And to my knowledge, he hasn't spoken to police since. Now, you want to be suspicious of that? You can. The issue, though, is that he seems to have a pretty solid alibi for that day, in that he was with multiple people, hanging out with some friends, multiple people. They gone, I think, rock climbing. And like it said, he was doing some things at the new house, moving some things in there. At least what I have read, there just doesn't seem to be a timeline, a time frame. Even if he knew where she was going to be, exactly where she was going to be that day, just don't know if there was time to do that. I don't know where exactly they were living at the time, but what I did see was where the car was found was approximately a half hour from the middle of Lander, the middle of the nearest town where they were living. It just doesn't seem so. I could be wrong. And like I said, years later, police still pointing the finger at him. I don't know. We know how husbands and boyfriends get looked at. But if you want to compare Steve's alibi to all of the other alibis of husbands that we suspect on Unfound, Steve's alibi seems to be pretty rock solid compared to any of theirs. That's what I would say. Now, there was a witness, if we want to believe witnesses, who said that there was a white truck in the area with a guy and maybe a woman in that sped by this witness. And the witness said it could have been Steve's truck, or looked like Steve's truck, or something like that. We know how witnesses can be. Now, I don't know. Where was this witness? Where was this a witness? What was the witness doing out there? Where was the witness going? Was the witness by himself or herself? We don't know all these things. We just don't have a lot of context to this sighting, if it even happened. So I do not believe that you should be, if you're thinking about Amy's disappearance and going to, think about it later after I'm done here, this is not something that I think you should take too seriously, in my opinion. As I stated, Steve stopped cooperating with police. You may be wondering, well, did he ever enter women in his life? That could be a reason if he did do something to Amy. Well, he didn't get married till years later. It's not like, he got married the next year, quickly got divorced, declared her deceased, and moved on to another woman. It seems like he married years later. Now, what's years later? I think well into the 2000s. This, of course, happened in 1997, if you were interested to know about that. So I have a list of things that what I could not find anywhere. I'm not saying this information doesn't exist. Certainly, if I were to talk to somebody in Amy's family or somebody, they might be able to fill me in. But these would be some things that would be helpful to know. Now, you should know that Amy, if she's still alive today, she's just a couple years younger than I am. I think she would be 53 now. So at the time of the disappearance, she was only like 24. So I'm guessing, if she had siblings, they're still alive. Maybe at least one of her parents is still alive. Certainly love to talk to them. But what will be helpful to know? Things that I could not find that would help me better analyze Amy's disappearance. What I want to know is, did she scout running routes often? So if she was involved in other running events, whether it's by her gym or any other organization or club or whatever, did she scout these running routes often? And was it usual for her to go out like a month and a half before this, like she did seemingly this time? That would be helpful to know. How familiar was she with this area where her truck was found? And I'm not saying, it's not like Ian Rogers, that vehicle out in the middle of the woods where it's not supposed to be. It does seem that this vehicle was in the area where people thought it should be. That's how it got found so quickly. But how familiar was she with this area? Had she run in this area before? Maybe she and Steve, her husband, driven through this area before? This would be helpful to know. And even overall, just to take her out of it, is it common for routes to be checked for running? I'm guessing it is, especially if people are going to be running through a city or something. But this is going to be through, is it a national park, state park? No. And what I would also add in there, it's not, this was being a run organized by her gym. Why wasn't the person who owned the gym? Maybe that's something we need to think about. If the gym is sponsoring it, if it's a competition, it's going to have its name on it. You would think that maybe someone from the gym, the owner, the manager, might go out there as well just to check everything else. Of course, there's going to be insurance issues and things, probably a lot of paperwork and permits to do this. And so I'd want to know more about that. Plus, we just need to know more about Amy. Like I said, seemed to be a woman, very dedicated, very disciplined, very outgoing, very competitive. I think did very well in school, good at athletics. Kind of sounds to me like a type A personality. But certainly like to know a little bit more just about her and of course, what were they doing for money? What was Steve's job? What was her job? All of those things might help all of this as well. And being that she was a runner, where did she usually practice? We know, of course, for the average person, the treadmill is plenty. But for people who are track and field athletes from college, I think they're more likely to want to run outside, even if it is on a track at a school or something, or maybe run along the street. So was Amy like that? I'd want to know more about that. And I also have this as being confusing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. She was organized, there different news accounts say different things. Some say she was just going to be taking part in the race. Some people said she was just going to check out the where this race was going to be for the gym. But then other places say she was organized. She was the one actually organizing the run. And so it's unclear to me what her involvement was in putting this entire thing together. Was it just casual or was it very involved? That part is a little confusing to me. I think that would be helpful to get some really good clarity on that. And also, like I said, a month and a half before, maybe if she was going to be filling out the paperwork for the gym and maybe help them get a permit and insurance and everything, maybe it makes all the sense in the world that she's up there a month and a half early to check everything out and make sure this is the right thing to do in this area. Like I said, I don't know about organizing running races. I'm just kind of pulling things off the top of my head. The only thing I can liken it to is the disc golf tournaments that I play, but I don't run any of them. I don't organize them. I just play. But I do know in the weeks leading up to a disc golf tournament, being that mainly they are played in public parks, that things get cleaned up, signs start getting put up, permits and insurance, all that stuff has to be arranged. All those types of things. And to start doing it a month and a half out, maybe that's not unusual. So let's get now. Hello, Ashley. What's going on? Good to see you. And Joni, thank you. Joni is now a new member. Thank you. That's what Joni's done, becoming a member, hitting the join button below. Thank you, Joni. You're very generous. So here is my analysis. Now, you should know one more thing. There was a guy that was looked at for this, and they think he's a serial killer, but they've only been able to attach him to one murder. His name is Dale Eaton. And if that name does not ring a bell to any of you, he is the guy who abducted a woman and her car, killed her. She was found in a stream days later after she went missing. He was the guy, though, that buried her car in his front yard. She had a Honda CRX, which is Remember those cars from the 80s? In fact, a friend of mine, his name's Brian from college, had one of them. Very little cars. That's what she was driving. He actually got some backhoe or something, dug a hole in his front yard and put the car in it. But then it was years later through DNA, they had collected DNA from her, and then they got his DNA somehow. They figured out that he had killed her, and it was called the Little Miss murder because that was her license plate. It was personalized. And her name was Lisa Kimmel, Kimmell. Well, the reason they looked at Dale Eaton for the disappearance of Amy Bechtel is because after he murdered Lisa, of course, they didn't know that he did it for quite a while. Years later, he had abducted a family from somewhere, but actually let them go. And then he was caught, then he escaped. And coincidentally or not, he was eventually found hiding out in the Shoshone National Forest, which is exactly where Amy, at least her car, was found. But she went missing in 97. Him being in the Shoshone National Forest wasn't into the 2000s. And like I said, even though some people were trying to call him a serial killer, he's only ever attached to one murder, and that was Lisa Kimmel. He has been asked about Amy Bechtel's disappearance, and to my knowledge has never admitted to anything. So you have to keep that in mind. So other than them looking at her husband, Steve, they also looked at Dale Eaton, and there's a whole Wikipedia page on that if you want to check out Dale Eaton and the murder of Lisa Kimmel. And I can remember this. Before it was solved, I can remember Unsolved Mysteries or Dateline or whatever, trying to figure out who murdered her and where her car was. And eventually her car was found in Dale Eaton's front yard, buried. My impression, at least once again, just reading about yesterday and today and preparing for this show, I think it's kind of weak. It does seem some people out there really motivated to think that he killed Amy somehow and hid her. It just seems very weak to me. Certainly not impossible, but just doesn't seem likely to me. You can check it out for yourself and see what you think. So I want you to know, besides Steve, there was somebody else who has been looked at. And I guess since she's not been found, I'm guessing Steve and Dale, who is still alive, they're both still alive. I guess they're still suspects, given that she's still missing. So let's get into more of the analysis of, what this all looked like. So her vehicle. I want to remind you that her vehicle was found unlocked. There wasn't any signs of violence. There wasn't any, no tires punctured, no damage to the vehicle, no windows blown out, nothing. It was just sitting there. But it was unlocked. The keys were in it, but her wallet was missing. Now, I think we can all agree if she parked it there and decided to go for a run, she surely did not leave it unlocked with the keys in it. Surely not. Surely not. That did not happen. So we can easily rule that out. And of course, her wallet, though, is missing. So keys there, car unlocked, parked not in an unusual way or anything. But the wallet, I guess, would have her ID in it. Maybe had some cash in it, credit cards, those things. Still missing all these years later. Noteworthy. I'll go back to the husband. To me, like I've already stated, it's not obvious that his alibi is bad. It seems fairly solid to me. But maybe he got all of his buddies, or at least a couple of his buddies back then to lie for him. Would not be the first time. But, you'd like to think that, if he's asking multiple people to lie for him, that they wouldn't do that. At least one of them would, say, because here's what I know. If one of my friends asked me, hey, I was doing something, I need to give you an alibi for me, and I don't even know what the topic is. I don't even know. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell him yes. Then as soon as I'm out of contact with them, I'm calling the police. I'll do that. I love my friends, but I'm not lying for them. All right. And if just for all you friends who are listening out there, family members too, don't ask me to lie for you. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting caught up. Not doing it. Even if I say so to your face. As soon as we are out of contact with each other, I'm going to the police. That's just who I am. I am not getting wrapped up. And I think that's the way most people are. Although certainly friends will lie for friends on occasion. I would also say that the motive is hard to understand. If she's going out there and everybody thought she was going out there, and then he made it a point to go out there to do this, it's a lot of driving and stuff to go kill your wife and make her disappear. And that's maybe the best point about all of this. We have to remember something. It maybe gets glossed over when we're covering disappearances. It's something maybe we kind of it maybe doesn't even enter our brains. Why do people make others disappear? Why? Like I said, we tend to think that 60 to 65, 70% of the disappearances that we've featured on Unfound have something to do with foul play. Why weren't those bodies just left where they were murdered? There are reasons. Now, I would say for husbands who kill their wives, the reason they can't leave their wives sitting there is because the violence happened within the house. I mean, what's the guy going to say? Yeah, I was just sitting here. Some guy came in, killed my wife, and left. I mean, that's why they have to make their wives disappear. Because the violence happened in the home. They can't leave the woman in the home. That's why they have to figure out a way where to put her. Maybe in the backyard. Maybe in a dumpster. It may be buried out in somewhere. But they're certainly not going to leave her there on the kitchen floor. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it's just as simply as I can put it. So when it comes to Steve and Amy, if she's out there, if he really wanted her gone, why would he make her disappear? Why not just go out there and encounter her on the road, hit her with the car, or if you have a gun, just shoot her and take off? Well, making people disappear is a lot of work, and that's why it's only done under certain circumstances. Where she's out there by herself, you could basically do anything to her. And in fact, you'd want her probably to be found. So I'm inclined to think, on top of the seemingly pretty decent alibi, it's just hard to understand why he would kill her, and then on top of that, make her disappear. It's just hard to understand. Not impossible to understand, but hard to understand. Some additional analysis. Certainly, I would want to know, and this kind of goes, if this is going to sound like Julie Weflin a little bit, it is. Certainly, I would want to know who knew she was going out there. Certainly, her husband did. I'm guessing some of her female friends did. How many people from the gym knew that she was going out there, for example? In total, how many people knew that she was going out? And I Burnt Gulch, I think, was the name of the road or the little location. And I did look it up on the map. But her car was found at a place called Burnt Gulch in the sides of Shoshone National Forest, of course, which is huge. How many people knew she was going out there? That might be helpful to know. And of course, it's a huge group. That's going to be a little hard to research almost 30 years later. And I don't even know what the police did. The police even do that. I don't know. Maybe they did. I'm hoping they did. Did they look into who all knew that she was going to be out there that day? I'm guessing it's probably more than just a few people. It's probably fewer than 10, but it's probably more than 5. I'm guessing. I don't know. So I'd want to know who is going to be out there, but it's just not clear from the reports and news articles or anything how many people knew she was going out there, and were these people investigated. Unless we get our hands on the paperwork, we'll never know. Don't know. But certainly, if those people were never looked at, they should be. And what if we were to find out that some guy that worked at the gym, the manager of the gym, who knew Amy well, were working together on this, knew she was going out there, and it turned out over the years he's been convicted of assault or rape, things like that. That might catch our attention, right? Certainly. So that's something that comes to mind. So we also have to consider this. Why wasn't she found out there? Well, as we all know, it's become, one of my pet topics: searches fail. And I guess we have to be open to the idea that she's still out there. Murdered or not, dumped or not, heart attack, stroke, dehydration, or whatever else. It's something that's hard maybe for a lot of people to understand, but just because areas have been searched doesn't mean the person's not there. All it means is you just haven't found the person yet. Just like Jesse Farber, and you should know, I know pretty much almost exactly where he was found. For purposes right now, though, I'm not allowed to make that location public. But let's just say that Jesse Farber was found by accident, and he was found within the search area. I'm not going to say the precise point. But I will say it was within the search area. But you should know, when they went looking for Jesse, it was over a huge area. So that's not even saying much. I don't think I'm giving the location away. They searched over a huge area, and but he was eventually found by accident within that search area. So with Amy, I guess we have to be open to the same thing, even though it's been almost 30 years. It very well could be that she was out there, whether murdered or not, and she just hasn't been found. Now, of course, it's been 30 years, and you start talking about animals and everything, and then it gets very, very dark, very, 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 very morbid, and maybe because of that, if she was out there, she might never be found now. But I will keep coming back to the idea that she certainly would not have gone running with, leaving the vehicle unlocked with the keys in it. But we have to think about this. Could she have been suicidal? Could she have been having some mental health issue? Possible. Maybe some pressure going on with her marriage. Just bought a house, even though that can be a very joyful time. It can be a very stressful time. Did something flip on, go off in her head? Well, something's up here, and she gets up there and just leaves the keys in it and takes off. Could have. And maybe then somebody else comes along, sees it's unlocked, sees the wallet there, and just steals it. Possible. Still seems kind of unlikely. There's no facts to rule that out, though. Could this be stranger involved? Well, it could be. Of course, this is a very desolate place. Where she was sounds like there was a witness, if we want to believe it. I'm inclined, to not believe these people, but she's out there. She's by herself. Certainly could have been somebody came along and took her. But I would also say, on the other hand, that this is not what you might call a target-rich atmosphere. If there were, if guy was riding around the area looking for a woman to abduct or anything, what's this person doing out there? Where she wasn't even a paved road. Once again, unless this person knew that she was going to be out there. If there was some guy out there looking to rape somebody, rape a woman, what's he doing out there? Why isn't he in downtown Lander, Wyoming? No. Even when it goes back to Dale Eaton with Lisa Kimmel, my perception, she was on a highway. I think she ran out of gas or something is the story. And she ran out of gas along a highway. So even though she was alone, kind of like Amy, but she was on a major paved road. It might even been a 4-lane for all I know. And he just happened to come by. Bad luck for her. But the odds of that same type of person driving down some dirt road and encountering Amy, a lot less likely. Can't rule it out. But that's how I look at it. And unfortunately, though, on the other hand, we do know of situations where men who never hurt even a fly in their life, just something clicks off, they're out there, they see a woman by herself and they do something. This happens too, and then it's just so crazy, it's hard to calculate. And there was where was it? When was it? I don't even remember. But some of you, I know this was a big case on, was it Dateline or one of those years ago, 20 years ago? Some of you might remember this. Maybe you can even look this up. There were some guys who otherwise seemed to be decent guys. They were out there fishing, and it's some lake somewhere. I don't even know where it was. And there was a young woman, maybe even a teenager, who worked somewhere. And she drove off, and eventually her car was found on the edge of that lake, and she had been murdered, or somebody tried to make it look like she tried to drive into the lake or something like that. And it was the same lake where these guys were. And in fact, I think these guys even called it in. And eventually these guys, who seemingly were harmless otherwise, were charged with this woman's murder and found guilty. But I think one of them had a heart attack and died before he could go to jail. Is this ringing a bell for anybody? I'm guessing it is. All of you, at least a couple of you, probably all of you, if you're tuning in live for the show, you're very schooled in your true crime stories. This had to have happened 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Maybe some of you can look that up. But all I'm saying is, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be a serial rapist driving out there in the Shoshone National Forest if this happened to have done something to Amy. There are at least a few examples, and in fact, one that just comes to my head, where, a guy or men who seemingly have not done much wrong in their life see a woman and they suddenly lose their minds. And as a guy, I don't get it. Women, don't ask me what's going on there because I can't explain it to you. I don't know. So could be stranger involved. It seems like an odd place to hang out to wait for a solitary woman to show up. It's not a target-rich atmosphere. But, it's just, like I said, the percentages make it seem unlikely. So moving down to, let's just take a look at this. If we're inclined to believe this was some sort of abduction scenario, whether by someone who knew her, who knew she was going to be there and was there, or somebody who just happened to be there. So somebody who knew her, somebody didn't know her. Let's just take a look at the abduction scenarios because they do seem to be the most likely, although it very well could be that she went off and killed herself, something like that. When she got there, this seems unlikely. Did this violence or abduction occur when she got there? Seems unlikely. It seems like the timing would have to be a little too precise. To actually, with this stranger or not, with the person known exactly where she was going to park and exactly the time she was going to get there and everything, it seems unlikely. So then the next scenario we have to check off is while she was running. To me, this seems like the most likely. She's out there, she's running alone, she's not by her vehicle. somebody comes along, whether somebody she knows or not, maybe hits her with the car, or if it's somebody she knows, somebody just pulls up. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing out here? I knew you said, oh yeah, well, and they start talking, and she doesn't know that this guy has ill intentions. And it very well could be, maybe the person even convinced her, hey, you're kind of far away from the vehicle. Let me drive you back. And then something happens. And this person then, she would have her keys on her, would have her wallet on her, goes over, unlocks the vehicle, throws the keys in. It keeps the wallet because the guy's going to keep the money, or maybe there's some sort of forensics that he's worried about. Drives off with her in the vehicle. She's never to be seen again. But that does leave us with the way the scene looked like, what it looked like when people did find her car. And unfortunately, given, I think, the abduction scenarios, this seems like the most likely. Well, it also means she could be anywhere. Absolutely, absolutely anywhere. So the third abduction scenario is, did this happen when she got back? This is, I would say this is the middle choice. I would certainly just about rule out when she got there. And it's not, I think, as likely as while she was running, but certainly somebody could have been waiting for her when she goes out for a run. Somebody sees the solitary vehicle there, maybe sees her running, and, puts it kind of all together and says, I'm just going to sit here at her vehicle, wait for her to come back. And then something happens, when she gets back. I think what would, maybe be, it's on the edge of likeliness. What probably goes against this idea is, how patient is this person going to be? We know a person was patient for Jody Huisentruit. So I guess it can happen, but would a person, of course, Jody Huisentruit got taken at 4 a.m. This would have happened in broad daylight. Is somebody really going to sit there in a vehicle and risk other people seeing that person there and being able to identify a vehicle later? It seems somewhat unlikely, but not impossible. So I think if I'm going to pick one of these, if it was an abduction, that it's while she was running out there somewhere. And what it means also is her bodies could still be out there somewhere. Somebody attacked her, took her into the bushes, took her keys, took her wallet, or didn't take, or took her keys. At the very least, she would have her keys and it would be locked. Took her keys, goes back to the car, opens it up, sees the wallet, takes the wallet, leaves the keys there, shuts the door, and takes off. This, to me, is the most likely scenario. The problem is that, what are the odds of nobody seeing this? Maybe that's not a problem at all. But I would also say is, I don't think, the way I'm thinking about it, I think that this was not done by a stranger. Like I said, if you go look at a map and look at this area, it's somewhat desolate. Like I said, the road's not even paved. It's like a dirt road. So once again, what are the odds that somebody's driving out in some dirt road, passes her, decides, I'm going to, turn around, kill her, hopefully, and maybe not even knowing what kind of vehicle is and who she is, or where she's with other people and everything else. It seems risky. So I'm convinced this was done by somebody who knew Amy, but I do not think that it was her husband. And looking at this, I guess in many ways, this is like Julie Weflin, who I will insist to this day, I think it was done by a coworker of hers. Some guy knew she was going to be out there by herself, got wind of it somehow, had a crush on her. This was his opportunity. Maybe it's on his way home from work or something. He stops in there, starts chatting her up, does this, does that. She resists, and he drags her away. I still think that's what happened to Julie Weflin. So maybe it shouldn't be any surprise to you that that's what I think happened here. The only big difference is with Julie, there was obvious signs of an abduction and violence. With um, Amy, not so much. But the problem is the abduction could have taken place anywhere in that area. And maybe if the people were more observant at the time, they would have noticed some maybe drag marks on the road or something like that. So this is where I am with Amy Bechtel. This is an abduction that happened while she was scoping this area out, whether walking or running, far from her car. Somebody tracked her down who knew her, knew she was going to be there, and killed her. And very well be, like I said, her body might still be out there. So that is let me see if there's anything else that I want to say about that. That's it. Amy Bechtel. I know it took me 40 minutes or something to go through it. Time goes by so fast when I'm doing that. I look at the clock, but it's not registering to me that, that the time's going by so fast and it's taking this long to explain it. But that's what I think. I don't know how original that is. I think maybe a lot of people think that she was abducted, but I'm also inclined to think, in reading over the last day and a half, that it's either the husband or this Dale Eaton guy. And I just don't think that either of those guys makes very good suspects at all. If it was the husband, I can't understand why he just didn't leave her right there in the road and make sure everybody knows that she was dead, and then he doesn't have to deal with any paperwork and have to wait 7 years to declare her dead, and yada 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 yada. Making her disappear when he could have just left her there, and I don't think anybody would have thought anything of it. Unlike all those guys who kill their wives right in the same house, could have left her there, and that didn't happen. It would have been very off. She's right there on the road. No, the motive is not rape or anything like that. So he just wants her out of the way. Well, now she's out of the way and she's dead and she's right there on the road. And on the other hand, with Dale Eaton, it just doesn't seem like his modus operandi. On top of the fact, it seems to me that, I don't know what his car situation was. And I just get the idea the whole Shoshone thing is just a coincidence. I'm sure if we knew enough about all serial killers who have ever existed in the United States, I'm going to guess maybe other serial killers were in the Shoshone National Forest too. That doesn't mean anything. So, in addition, it should be known, of course, that with the woman that we do know that Dale Eaton killed, he didn't hide her. She was found fairly quickly within a few days. So, and he, maybe by the time, Amy Bechtel came along, he would have known that, maybe, clean things up, to make sure she's not found at all. It just, like I said, it just seems too unlikely. So let's see I don't know if anybody's thank you there, Joni. Ashley. Hello, Ashley. Everyone's day today. Derek, the murderer doesn't want to get caught, so the body needs to be hidden. Well, not necessarily, maybe, Derek, maybe. The issue is that we know a lot of bodies are left behind and a lot of murderers don't get caught. Now, would the person who, if there was an abduction, if Amy was murdered, would that person have known that? I don't know. But, taking people and disposing of people is, even though it seems people get away with it, it's difficult. There are reasons that, when it comes to murders and things, the bodies are left behind. And murderers don't as much take the time to take the body and put it here, put it there. There are reasons. So I get it that no killer ever wants to be caught. But the calculation I think needs to me, and I really do believe that people do this. Of course, this happened in 97. This would have been within the DNA age. If somebody did do something to Amy, would this have been on their mind? I don't know. You have to do the calculation. Okay, I don't want to get caught. What makes it least likely that I'm going to get caught? Me throwing her into a vehicle and taking her somewhere else, or just leaving her right here. Now, I think in 1997 terms, I think the calculation would be, I'll leave her here. Once again, DNA just kind of becoming a thing. Now in 2025, given now that everybody knows about DNA and forensics and everything else, it does seem more likely that a body might get taken. The issue is still a lot of murders, the bodies do get left behind. So I think you do have to look at maybe at the time that this happened. But we just have to remember a lot of murders, the closure rate for homicides in the United States today is only 50%. Despite forensics, despite social media, despite being able to track people on their phones and social media and everything, it's still only 50%. Joni, I owe you all for the podcast. I've listened to my favorite podcast. Time to give back as much as I can. You are very Joni. Thank you very much. You're very generous. Thank you. I really appreciate it. D-Bed, you said last week you would not tell. Well, regarding Jesse, well, I've only told a little. I don't know if that's exactly what I meant last week, D. We know certainly that he was found, and he was found in the general area of where people thought he was. And I know the exact location, and I was sent a map of it, but I'm not going to make it public. Hello, Amy. Good to see you. D says, sounds like 2023 disappearance. Which one, D? You will have to tell me. And hello, Kimberly. What's going on? Kimberly Jerome. What's going on? Good to see you. So, Amy Bechtel, maybe I need to send a message to this police department asking them, and once again, identifying myself. Like I think I told you last week, I sent one police department information, identifying myself and everything else. And they said they were going to give the information of the cold case unit. Yeah. I don't know if they're just blowing me off or not. I do feel motivated to maybe email this police department as well. Just wondering if, how many people knew she was going to be out there that day, and how deeply were all of those people, investigated. Maybe something along those lines, maybe. All right. I've already talked about Ian, talked about Amy, so we got about 37 minutes left. I want to talk about this. This is not on the list. I'm going to get to the professor killed his wife. Don't worry about that. Because there's kind of a public service message within all of that as well. I want to put you on to a movie. It's a Dutch movie so it is not in English. So if you want to see this movie, I think you're going to have to do it with subtitles. The movie is called The Vanishing. And it came out, this Dutch film came out in 1988. It does not have anybody in it that I think you will recognize. Like I said, it's a Dutch movie. And we have to, this is going back almost 40 years. So it's not like you're going to see Meryl Streep and Harrison Ford in it. But the reason I'm bringing it up, as you can maybe tell by the title, that this is a movie about a disappearance. And just to get, I'm not going to give away the ending or anything like that. I'm not going to ruin it for you, because I don't know if it's on any streaming service. Can you buy the DVD off of Amazon? I have no idea. But the movie is about a married couple, and I think they maybe run out of gas or something over there in Europe. and they go to get gas at a gas station or rest area or whatever it is. And while they're there, the wife goes missing. She disappears. And the guy is left, her husband is left to try to figure out what has happened to her. And I know it's not like the most compelling plot. Like I said, I don't want to give too much of it away. But on the surface, well, that's what every disappearance movie is about, right, Ed? Well, yeah. But it's unique when Stanley Kubrick, of 2001 and Clockwork Orange, and one of my favorite movies of all time, Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick actually called this movie the most terrifying film he ever saw. So even though you're like, well, just the plot doesn't exactly, blow my skirt up, Ed, there's more to it than just a little straightforward disappearance. And Silent said, there's an American version of the same title with Jeff Bridges. I haven't seen that one, Silent. And, of course, I love a lot of American films, but if it's a remake, usually an American remake of a movie from some other country is inferior. Usually. Not all the time, but most of the time. I love Jeff Bridges, though. Like him a lot. Great guy, great actor. He always does a nice job. And one of his most understated performances was in the 1970s version of King Kong. Love that movie. Even though it's kind of weird to pick that out, but Jeff Bridges in a movie, and that's a really good movie. It's been a lot of good stuff, but I've not seen that one. And Amy says, I've seen it. Good flick. Very nuanced. Yeah. And so once again, plot seems very straightforward, but Stanley Kubrick calls it the most terrifying film he's ever saw. And I think the moral of this movie, maybe of a few different morals, kind of Aesop's fables type of thing, is it is possible to want to solve a disappearance too badly, and that there is a flaw. If you are obsessed with something, you should view obsession as a flaw. Not, it's not necessarily a good quality. And, yeah. So I'm going to throw that out to you. Anybody on my recommendation goes and finds it somehow to watch it. It's not on any of the streaming. I saw it years ago. But it's not on any of the streaming services I have. But if you can find it wherever it is, let me know that if you watch it. Let me know. Email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. to let me know what you think of it. And do you agree with Stanley Kubrick that it's the most terrifying film he ever saw? And it's not terrifying because it's gory or there's a lot of, I don't think, there's no violence in it. None. But still, to him, it's the psychological part of it. DD says, pretty sure you've mentioned this before. It stuck with me because I lived in the Netherlands for a bit as a kid. DD, I don't think I have. I mean, unless it's like in the early days of the live show. I don't want to say you're wrong. Man, I think maybe I might be surprised by that. I don't think I have. The thing is, I saw it years ago, well before I ever started Unfound. And then just recently, I was going through, maybe I asked Chat GPT or whatever it's called, movies about disappearances, and that popped up, and I was like, oh yeah, that movie. Right. I got to tell the listeners about it. So there you go. True. Didi, I'm thinking it was probably early days. Okay, Didi. All right. Maybe I did. Here, I think I'm bringing something new to all of you, and Dee Dee's saying, nope, Ed, you've talked about this before. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm saying it again, being that I forgot about it, meaning maybe other people forgot about it. If you have a chance to see this movie, and of course, if you're all tuned in here, you're into disappearances, you should probably check this movie out. But like I said, I haven't really given anything away here, but oh, baby, the end, the end, the end. Brace yourself. So there's that. What else? Maybe I need to talk just a little bit about the Three Cities episode. Of course, this is from this past Friday. I was supposed to do an interview last week, and it fell through. And maybe we can make that happen within the next couple weeks. Maybe I'm seeing my dad. Like I said, this Friday is already done, and I'm going to get next Friday's episode done tomorrow as far as the interview goes. But that was something I put together, and it was one of those things. Maybe I should have been doing this all along. That when, of course, I do the update episodes, and I talk at least a little bit, do a little bit of analysis in the update episodes, but maybe since the beginning, when all of these disappearances have been resolved over the years, even though maybe I've talked about them on the live show, and maybe, there's been some times when I did the in memoriams for, some missing people, maybe I should have been making the analysis of these solved disappearances actually official episodes within the feed. Maybe not necessarily coming out on a Friday, but maybe making it, coming out on a Monday, but also within the same feed in which you get the podcast. Maybe this would have been something educational and informative. And because I continue to say that Unfound is mainly about education. Yeah, getting on a podcast is good publicity, and you get to hear it. You get to, learn about new people and everything else. But really, it's about education. What are we learning? And so it was like, yeah, maybe I should have been doing this a while ago. So that's why I took the opportunity to do that this past Friday. And I guess it kind of helped that these three disappearances, similar in some ways, but different in other ways. So there was some good comparing and contrasting in talking about them and looking what happened and looking at the men who disappeared and how they all got resolved the same way by luck. But I think it shows that you can have three different types of guys with certainly with Chance. Maybe he had a couple beers in him or something, but certainly he wasn't into drugs. He wasn't having a mental health issue. Then we got Jesse kind of in the middle, probably doing some drugs that night, but he was not prone to living in the woods or anything, was usually living under a roof, and obviously had Rachel in his life who deeply cared about him. And then you get Zach, who's on the other extreme from Chance, who, was prone to living in the woods and being a little bit transient. Where is he going to sleep tonight? He was also had some mental health issues and drug issues. But the disappearances, though, even though different types of guys, disappearances kind of the similar, and the resolutions are very similar. And even though each of these disappearances, lasted for a different amount of time, and I will be honest with you that I forgot that Jesse's disappearance was 10 years old. I think in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, Chance is about 6 years old. And I think I had a good handle on how old Zach's disappearance was. But 10 years, somehow I forgot that. Certainly could remember Jesse and the circumstances and what was going on with his life. Completely forgot it happened in 2015. I thought it was like 2021 or something. Boy, did I get that wrong. So I thought, like I said, I thought it gave you all a good opportunity to hear those all again and see the similarities and the dissimilarities between those three. And hopefully that will, help you when you hear about disappearances, whether they are featured on Unfound or not? D says, hey, y'all, remember to give Ed a thumbs up. Yes, please do. Thank you for reminding everybody, D. We got about 26 minutes to go. So, yes, it would be a very good time. If you've not yet given this show a thumbs up, please do that. And sign up, join as Joni has tonight, and going way back to the beginning to Gina. And then, of course, Lisa celebrating her 3-year anniversary. You want to do that too? I will not stop you. All right, let's go to this professor who killed his wife. This is a story. And like I said, this is more not just a bizarre murder story, but I think this is a good public service announcement. I don't know how many minutes I'm going to be able to, maybe I might get one other item, maybe one other news story before we're done here tonight. I don't think this is going to take us to 11. But anyway, this professor, former professor at Ohio State University. I don't think that this guy ever had a problem with the law in his life, maybe some speeding tickets or something, but there's nothing that I read that he was a violent guy or had any domestic violence in his marriage or anything like that. Not sure about whether he and his wife had kids or not, nothing like that. But he just out and out stabbed his wife to death. And why did he do it? Like I posted this in the group, the Facebook group, so some of you surely saw this story, maybe even just saw it in general. Because it made headlines since last week. Here's what happened. And like I said, this is going to turn into a PSA, public service announcement as well. Here, James Hill, 76 years old, had met he was, as a married man, he was doing some things online that he shouldn't have. And I would even say, even as a single guy myself, I would never be doing these things either. Whether I ran this podcast or I was an engineer or anything else, even though I get messages doing this podcast from people and everything else, when it comes to communicating with people online, man, I play it really, 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 really strict. This is one of the reasons when people email me, as I've said before, and they say, well, I have information about a disappearance. I want to talk to you about it. Can you give me a call at this number? The answer is always no. I'm not calling you. Now, if we've conversed before, if it's like a former guest or something like that, that's different. But you would be amazed how many strangers just email me out of the blue and say, hey, I have information on the disappearance. Here's my number. Call me. I'm not calling you. Ever. Zero. Never, ever, never, never, ever, never, never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, never. And my response is always the same. If you have information on a disappearance, I don't necessarily need to know about it. If you think you believe the information, just go to the police. You don't need to talk to me. The other thing I might say, depending, is, will you send me the information? I will look at it, and I will decide if we need to discuss anything further. And it's amazing. 99.99% of the time, I never get anything in response. All right, this is how I treat online communications, even though the work that I do for this podcast and marketing it and contacting people and everything is mostly online. Well, this married guy was doing things online that a married guy should not be doing. And I would say that all you single guys out there, you shouldn't probably be doing this stuff either. Well, he met some woman online and seemingly he sent her naked pictures of himself. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. And it turns around that this woman decided to extort him. And he feared that his wife was going to find out about it. And his solution was to kill his wife so she wouldn't find out. Now it seems he also tried to stab himself to death to kill himself. He was unsuccessful. So he does this picture thing, turns around, says, I know who you are, and I know you're married, and the extortion starts. And he starts worrying about what's going to happen to him, and his wife's going to find out. And so I guess to spare himself the embarrassment, I guess in a distorted way, he killed his wife. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, my insight into just this in general is this is happening a lot. There's a lot of people doing things online that they shouldn't be doing. And now, of course, it's easy for me to talk. I'm a single guy, and you should know even though I've had girlfriends in my life, I've never cheated on any of them. I realize that I don't do relationships. Maybe I've never been in a relationship long enough to even think about that. I'm open to that. But, and I even, kind of, it's not necessarily meant to be overtly funny, but, this guy worried about his reputation. As I've stated, and this has happened, and this is where I actually want to go with this. How many of you, I've gotten them. So I'm guessing many of you, I've not gotten any at the Unfound podcast at gmail.com site, but the email that I use for everything else in my life, like with my bills and like subscriptions to Paramount Plus and everything else, is a different, it's a different email address. But I wouldn't say once a month. And it seemed like there was a flurry of emails for a while, but I haven't gotten one for a while. You'll get an email with an attachment, and it'll say, sir, I know you've been doing things online that you shouldn't have been doing. And this attachment, we've been able to turn on your webcam, and you've been doing things that you shouldn't have been doing, and we've recorded it. So you need to send us this much money in cryptocurrency. Has anybody ever got an email like that? I've gotten it like at least 10 of those, maybe over the last 2 years. Now you have to understand that stuff is fake. That stuff is not real. Somebody is hoping that you'll actually believe that. Okay, you have to understand that. So this is where the PSA part of this public service announcement. The issue is that a lot of people fall for that. And in fact, I've had this talk with my dad because he's gotten his emails like that. And I said, Dad, that's fake. Him being 80 some years old, I'm the one that has to tell him it's not real. That's all fake. People with too much time on their hands. And it's one of those things, they'll send a million emails out. If they can just get 10 people to fall for it and get that money, that's considered a success. And of course I have joked around, saying, if there were anything like that, that would actually raise my public profile, not diminish it. I've joked around about that. But, because I think for most people, in jobs and things like that, if you are doing, and like this guy, professor, Ohio State, married, yeah, that's not going to be good. But on the other hand, there's certainly things people could do with their lives where, the standing and everything maybe does not mean as much. And certainly within this realm of what I do, there's certainly I would like to think that I have a good reputation and everything else. But on the other hand, if someone had something like that and were to do it, I don't think that I would be that upset about it. But I also come from the world of entertainment where, anything goes. But if you're a 76-year-old former professor and married, it's a little bit different. Certainly. But the bigger issue is there. I want all of you to know that if you've ever gotten any emails like that, unless you've actually been doing something like that yourself, otherwise, please understand that these are these are pranks. These are scams. Do not fall for them because they can make it sound really real, really, really real. In fact, another scam that's out there is you'll get an email allegedly from somebody in the Department of Justice or something saying, hey, we've got an alert that there's child porn on your computer. And if you send a check for this amount to this address, we'll make that go away. Fill it out to this person's name and we'll make it to go away. You would not believe how many people fall for that crap. They actually think there's somebody, Department of Justice, who you can send them a personal check and they'll make, something that doesn't exist on your computer, but people send checks anyway. You really, really, really have to watch out for this stuff. Now, the difference is, I think in this case, this guy was doing it. I think a lot of it is fake. But the way I read this story about James Hill, former Ohio State professor who killed his wife and tried to kill himself because his wife was going to find out that he was, sending nudies to some woman online, I think that's actually what he was doing. Pretty sure. Lisa, did you see the 60 Minutes last night? I haven't watched 60 Minutes for years. Mainly because the think tank is on at that time, Lisa. Did you see 60 Minutes last night where an AI program was starting to sound like its next step was extorting a man for cheating? Well, I guess I'm glad I'm single, Lisa. Yeah, I've read about how they can copy people's, sound like other people. I know it's very, 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 very scary. Very, very scary. I don't know what you can do about it. Very scary. Don't mean to sound like George Herbert Walker Bush when Dana Carvey used to do them. Very, very scary. So I did not see that, but I know that it is something. I don't know what you can do about it. Too many people with computer expertise, too much time on their hands. I would wish they were more concerned about saving the world and feeding the poor and stuff like that. Nope. They're trying to copy people's voices and send prank emails. I don't know what you could do about it. Just be aware. That's all you can do is be aware, as they say. Keep your heads on swivels. Don't fall for pranks. Any emails you get, question everything. Be cynical. That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do. So very sad. This guy is, hopefully they catch whoever this extortionist is, because, sending nude pictures of adults over the internet, I don't think that's illegal. But certainly if you're going to then use those pictures to force somebody to do something, money and everything, that certainly is illegal. So I'm hoping they catch this extortionist. It might not even be a woman, right? I think maybe this guy got totally fooled. And the thing is, the person might not even be in the United States. The person could be anywhere. It could be in North Korea. So we'll see what comes of this and see if this extortionist extorter ever gets caught. Lisa, thanks for reading through my typo. I've been doing this for a little while, Lisa. I can spot those typos. What else? The database. Was hoping, I'm liking it. Really, I've been messing around with it a little bit, and I was hoping to do a video on it. Like some of you certainly have already watched the first video I did, where I went through all of the terminology. It's up on YouTube, but it's not it can't be publicly accessed. You can only access it if you're in the discussion group on Facebook, by the way. So if you're in the discussion group and you'd like to see a video about the terminology that I'm using for this database, you can find it in the discussion group. Click on it. It's about an hour long, but I had to go through 33 different categories. So there's that. I also put the file, though, in there if you just want to go through it yourself. But, reading the file might be not totally explanatory. But that's why I felt I had to do the video. But I wanted to do a video actually using the database and clicking on things, and you can see it on the screen and you can see my, the cursor, somewhat how I do the map analysis videos. The problem is I can't do it yet because there's still two categories that are kind of a little messed up. One is the date function. Certainly I want to be able for you to search between certain dates. So I want to look at any disappearance that Unfound is covered between January 1st, 1990 and December 31st of 1999. So all of the 90s. Say you wanted to do that. It just doesn't quite work right yet. So I told, even though I've gotten pretty good just because I now have editing privileges on it and I can move things around and I've changed a few things. But when I got to that, I was like, man, I don't want to really, really mess this up. So I had to tell Cameron about it and he just didn't get to it this weekend. No complaint. He's a busy guy. He'll eventually get to it and figure out why the date function there's something about the formatting of the Excel sheet and how it's used in the database that it's just not, I don't know. It's just not seeing the dates as dates for some reason, even though I've tried to format it. I think he's tried to format it, but he knows it more than I do, and he'll get to it. I'm sure he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out. The other thing that's not working quite right is the type. So with each of these different disappearance Unfound is covered, I put the type. The man said, this is my category system. I wanted it to be in there, and it's in there. The problem is that when I originally did it, I just put numbers. So 1 equals the man said, 2 equals this, 3 equals this, and there's 6 different categories. Well, I eventually decided, well, let's just put the actual names of the categories instead of just putting numbers where people have to remember, well, this means this. And when I did that, the spreadsheet column was in numeric. It was formatted for numbers, and then I put words in there, and I tried to reformat it to just text, and it wouldn't take. And every time I tried to put it into the database to use it, it would come up with an error. So I don't want to do a how-to video on how to use everything until each category works. Now, that doesn't mean that's the end of the tweaking of it. But once that's done, then I'll be able to do a video. But certainly it will be an ongoing process of maybe seeing what works and what doesn't work. But when you have two main categories like that are still, absolutely funky and don't work, it's just not useful to do a how-to video at this point, even though the other 31 categories work fine. So there's that. But I really like it. And I'm hoping you're going to like it too. I'm hoping it's something that you can start messing around with it. And I could certainly see people getting totally caught up in it, for hours and hours and hours, doing, well, I want to check this, but I want to search for this, but not that and not this, and see what all comes out. And I'll do the how-to video eventually once we get those two categories all figured out. I'm thinking it's going to happen soon. Once again, Cameron working on in his spare time, working for free. I cannot thank him enough. It wouldn't exist without him. And of course, with also listener Kathy's help. And this isn't something that needs done today. This is something that's forever. Valerie, hi everyone. I made it always listening hard. It makes it always listening hard to make a live because of work. Well, Valerie, you're in here with 6 minutes left. So you're a little late, but not totally late. MT, Hi, I just got off work in time to give a thumbs up. West Coast time will catch up in the replay. So excited for the database. Thank you, MT. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for getting in here in the last 6 or 7 minutes. So that's the update on the database. Probably, even if it were to get fixed tomorrow, given that I'm driving to Pennsylvania on Thursday, meaning I have to get the episode and everything done before then. I'm not going to have time to do it anyway. So if it does get done, I will just do that video, the how-to video for the database when I'm in Pennsylvania. I'll just get it done then. Anything else that I wanted to talk about here? Amy Bechtel tonight. One more thing. There was a local sex offender from right here in Pinellas County where I live who finally got caught in Indianapolis 16 years after he fled. So he was on the run. I guess he was technically a missing person. And it says in 2007, Gary Howard, 76, was convicted of 22 counts. He's 76 now. Of possession of child pornography here in Pinellas County. And he somehow escaped. He tried to make it look like he committed suicide in Kentucky. Deliberate attempt by Howard to stage his own death to appear as a suicide. Subsequent evidence revealed the act was premeditated and he ployed to mislead law enforcement. Well, he finally was tracked down in Indianapolis, Indiana. And it's one of those things. How did this guy not get caught well before now? Because he fled to an area where, his family was known to be. And it seems unlikely. It seems even though they knew he was a sex offender, they were still helping him out, which is horrible. And how does this happen? Did it really need to be 18 years? They couldn't figure it out that this guy was in that area and that his family, if they knew that he faked his death, then it seems the next best choice would be, well, where is he most likely to go? Well, he has family in Indianapolis. Well, let's go see what they're doing. Let's go stake out. We know what the guy looks like and everything. Let's go take a look and see what's going on up there and see, what he's doing. It's not even clear to me that he changed his name, I don't know if he changed his appearance. I'm not sure what family lived up there, but it doesn't sound like as I have in my notes, doesn't sound like the greatest job being done by law enforcement. There's nothing in this article that leads me to believe that it needed to be unsolved for 18 years. If there was proof that he tried to fake his own death, should not an area where his family lived been a prominent area to keep an eye on? Did he have a fake ID? I'd like to hear more details about how he actually pulled this off for all these years. And maybe since this happened in Pinellas County, at least originally when that's where the charges were filed, being it's local, maybe I can find that out and see how that all went down. I would call this an easy type of disappearance, but my perception is police made it difficult. That's my perception. So if you want to look that up, the guy's name is Gary Howard. He took off from Pinellas County, Florida, which is Clearwater, St. Pete area, where I live. You can look that up. This Friday, we're going to Pennsylvania. In fact, being that I've mentioned Jesse Farber a few times tonight, we're going to the same area of Pennsylvania where Jesse went missing. We're going to be covering the disappearance of Donald DJ. People called him DJ Hamaker, Hamaker. He went missing on May 30th. Maybe I got that date wrong. Maybe it might have been the 28th or 29th. He went missing in late May of 2024, so a year and a half ago, from Girardville, Pennsylvania, and his mother, Julie, is the guest. Allegedly, he went fishing with a guy who was living with him. His name was Jimmy. They went to this gravel pit that is now kind of a lake. Used to be, they dug for coal and then abandoned it, and then water filled it in, and it, keeps evaporating and rain comes in. So it's a place where you can go swimming and fishing, although I think it's on private property, but locals know the area, go there often. Allegedly, DJ and Jimmy went to this area, and allegedly DJ capsized on he took his kayak with him to go out into the water. Allegedly, he capsized and drowned. The issue is that they've sent divers down into this this pit of water, and DJ has not been found. And in fact, when we talk about the scene, as I do with his mother Julie, it doesn't look like any fishing was going on. If he went out there in his kayak, why didn't he take the bait with him? Why were the rods and reels that he was supposed to be using tied up to the kayak when it was found? And there have been people who have drowned in that pit before swimming, maybe drinking and swimming or whatever. But every one of those people has been found. So if DJ drowned in there, why has he not been found? So that's this Friday's disappearance. Do you have a Facebook page? You can look that up. Not sure that he's on the Charlie Project, but he is on NamUs. And you can, of course, Google, get the general information, but you'll get the lowdown, the nitty-gritty details on Friday when you hear my interview with Julie, his mother. DJ Hammaker, late May of 2024, Gerardville, Pennsylvania. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, going way back to the beginning of the program, Gina. Thank you, Joni. You are all very generous. Thank you so much. Thank you for your contributions, the support you give Unfound. Thank you all for making time on your Monday night to listen and watch. Next time I do the show, I will be in Pennsylvania. Keep your heads on swivels. Do not end up on my podcast. Charlie, say hi to your sons for me. Good night, everybody.